Vanakkam. After a quite interesting lunch, we got together to listen to this topic. So I understand this, we have very short time actually, so I'll just quickly take it to the next 10-15 minutes, very interesting for you. So my mentor usually tells, just ஆள் யாருன்னு சொல்லுங்க அவருக்கு என்ன லா அப்ளை ஆகுதுன்றது நான் சொல்கிறேன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாப்புல. இது வந்து when I was meeting the first time, it was like very, I didn't give importance to it. But we could able to see globally anywhere, you could able to see the power and how people are considered or recognized based on what, then it's really, important to know this. We are investment bankers. We help firms to raise funds, mostly working on alternative investments, which is like private equity, venture capital, and large commercial real estates. So, we help them to raise funds from GCC-based institutional investors. It can be sovereign funds or large family offices. The family office அப்படிங்கிறது நம்மளுடைய ஒரு family business னு சொல்றாங்க. அதை இங்க they structured it a single family office னு சொல்லுவாங்க. So, say about like $25 million above worth, maybe in business or cash, they have it. So, they consider it to be a family offices. Second, we do a lot of activity towards, so we sit on the board as well and help the companies on the strategic and financial decisions. So that's the primary work we do on that. Okay, so we do invest on behalf of the family offices. So those who are running business, they don't want to take care of investing because there are a lot of portfolio diversification happens in terms of a lot of new tech companies are coming up. So family office, family business, they do invest small money like a startup venture. The startup companies, they invest on that. So we take care of that part to manage the portfolio as well. We do advise the royal families locally. I worked in royal families, so that connections are pretty strong for us to understand about their requirements and and their culture as well, and how the co-branding or co-investments happening globally and regionally, so we help them as well. So இன்னைக்கு நம்ம பார்க்க போகிறது வந்து is more towards private equity. So அதுக்கு முன்னாடி ஒரு சின்ன quick question. So how many of you are owning companies? எவ்வளோ பேர் கம்பெனி ஓன் பண்ணுறீங்க? Maybe globally, regionally or in India? கொஞ்சம் ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. That's amazing. So you are all owning companies. How many of you are investing in companies? ஏதாவது இன்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணியிருக்கிறீங்களா ஆல்ரெடி கம்பெனிஸில், ஆப்ரேட்டிங் கம்பெனிஸில்? Great. There are few hands. So there's a huge difference between owning a company and investing into a company. ஏன் சொல்கிறேன் அப்படின்னா, then probably you need to understand, when you are owning a company, you have all the rights to tell great about your company. நம்ம இன்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணும்போது it's all topsy-turvy, like it's other way around. So people don't trust or about any operating companies. Why should I invest அப்படின்ற மாதிரி? So always good to know about the whole game, how it works அப்படின்ற மாதிரி. So அதுக்கு முன்னாடி we should know about the business cycle. First, any company starts in a startup phase or a launching phase, then it goes to the growth phase and the matured phase and decline phase. So இதுக்கு ஒரு நல்ல எக்ஸாம்பிள் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, we have a lot of startup companies. Everything will fall into the launch phase. So it's all about they have struggle in all the routine client acquisition, brand identity. So எதுவுமே கிடைக்காது. They just started the business, so they struggle a lot to raise funds or even to manage the business also. Second phase is like more towards the growth phase, which is like you have your own set of clients. Already people know about your business. நீங்க அப்போ fundraise பண்ணும்போது, then you have set of institution able to help on that. Third phase is the matured phase. It's all stable income related. Your company is making good money and stuff like so. Then things are different. Decline phase is like ஒரு 30-40 years ஆனப்புறம் that product may be obsolete. அது continue பண்ண முடியாது அந்த business. So then it becomes obsolete. That's a kind of a decline phase. So every phase அந்த இதில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா we need to approach a different set of investors. எல்லா இன்வெஸ்டர்ஸுக்குமே you are into different phases. So எந்த ஃபேஸில் இருக்கிறவங்களையும் ஒரே இன்வெஸ்டர் அப்ரோச் பண்ணுன்றது கிடையாது. ஸோ ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் லான்ச் ஃபேஸில் இருக்கிறீங்க அப்படின்னா, தென் ப்ராப்ளி யூ கோ டு ஃபேமிலி ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் அண்ட் ஃபூல்ஸ் டு இன்வெஸ்ட் அண்ட் அட்ராக்ட் மணி அண்ட் ஸ்டஃப் லைக். அது இட் இஸ் ஃபார் சூப்பர் ஸ்டார்ட் அப் கம்பெனி. லைக் நான் தனியாக போய் பண்ணுறேன் அப்படின்னா, தென் ஐ நீட் டு லுக் ஃபார் இண்டிவிஜுவல் இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட்ஸ். இஃப் இட்ஸ் அ பிராண்ட், லைக் இஃப் இட்ஸ் அ கம்பெனி இஸ் ஆல்ரெடி ஹேவிங் அ ட்ராக் ரெக்கார்ட், பட் தேர் ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் they have so you have say about 5 to 10 hospitals. You're going for the 11th hospital, so obviously the government will fund on that, or maybe the banking, or maybe the ECA, we call it Expo Credit Agency, which is like a kind of Expo Finance. So a lot of governments are backing up because they need to, for example, UKல வந்து medical equipments there's a lot of emphasis on selling this equipment through the government sources. They call it ECA. இது வந்து இங்கே உள்ள British embassy கூட they have a complete wing to promote on the trade and commission. So what I mean to say is like இது வந்து if you are an individual, things are different. If you are a corporate or already existing business, things are different. Second, on the growth phase, obviously you need to get into the phase to reach the VC firms and private equity firms. இதுதான் நம்ம வந்து இப்போ மெயினாக பார்க்க போகிறோம். தேர்ட் வந்து யூ ஆர் இன் டு தி மெச்சூர் ஃபேஸ், யூ ஆர் கோயிங் ஃபார் அன் IPO. ஸோ பீப்புள் ஈஸிலி IPO இஸ் லைக் இனிஷியல் பப்ளிக் ஆஃபரிங், யூ லிஸ்டிங் யுவர் கம்பெனி இன் ஸ்டாக் மார்க்கெட். So again, like fundraising is an art, not only the numbers. You need to put the things in place, like mostly we call the business plan and business valuations and other set of information. Then get ready for your due diligence, because they come and for example, if you're looking for private equity, then they come and do a quick due diligence on your company, which includes operational due diligence and financial and legal due diligence and stuff. They, without knowing about your company, it's like marrying a person. You need to understand very clearly where you're going to invest, right? So that's a basic funda on that. So when you move forward, then maybe the negotiations and deal closure. There's a process of closing the deal. So private equity, it's always a kind of a risky area where companies hesitate to go. Reason mostly first is we don't understand how the private equity, the whole game works. Along the GPLP structure, then how the investment, they raise funds. It is not their fund most of the time. They raise funds from institutional investors and they deploy into target companies. So they அவங்க வந்து ஒவ்வொரு கம்பெனிஸ் இன்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணுறாங்க. their task is to maximize the revenue and exit over a period of time. இதுதான் அந்த game. So when we take a private equity firm on our board, sure they will insist to have a better performance. அதில் தான் most of the people are literally getting completely harassed on the board level. So we understand that game properly is much easier to manage the private equity funds. So, okay, if you see the trend of private equity globally, 2022 பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, so you can see the lot of investment they have deployed, more than a trillion, like 1.25 billion is like 100,000 and 250 billion is like around trillion dollars they have deployed. That's a huge market, that's a huge investment. So whenever they invest, they exit. So their time is like say about 5 to 7 years. They will be sitting on the company, value creation is done. Then they will have a proper exit. அப்போ எக்ஸிட் ஆகும்போது then the funds are they, for example, they invested 100 million on your company. அது வந்து அவங்க எக்ஸிட் ஆகும்போது they at least expect 2 to 3x. It means 300 million valuation, they want to take their money back and exit. அதுக்கு உள்ள whole process தான் value creation. So they will sit on the board and make sure that all goes well அப்படின்ட்டு. And the fundraising also is they raise fund. So அவங்க வந்து they don't have their own funds. They raise fund from institutional investors and deployed into this will be deployed into portfolio companies. So we should use the private equity properly. So why should we get into that segment அப்படின்னா, so it is more flexible. ஏன்னா நீங்கள் பேங்க்கில் போய் லோன் கேட்டிங்க அப்படின்னா, then there are two major things. You have asset or not, because all the things has to be mortgaged, some kind of an asset. Second, your repayment capacity. Repayment is not only the interest, the principal also. So always struggle for any companies to manage this value proportion, this interest and interest and premium, the repayment at a single stretch. இதெல்லாம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, how this private equity is going to helpful. Private equity is like they will not ask you the dividends on the year one. So they all understand that they want to have, they mostly focus on the capital gain. It means அவங்க எக்ஸிட் ஆகும்போது 5 yearsல then they want to have that kind of a good exit on the better value proportion. So in the flexibility you don't get on the lending or the debt financing. That is number one. Number two, they're not only investing, they will be helping you on strategy and operational support. It means for example, you are having a school or education sector, or you are in the technology, you are in the media, you are in the healthcare, they will put an expert to turn around your business. It means, for example, right now you are making 20 million turnover and make sure that it is reaching 50 million. Why? How? That's how it is. Like different geographical exposure like expansions, or maybe new product launch, or new set of client acquisition. So they have their own kind of a roadmap for next 5 years. அதில் எவ்வளோ தூரத்துக்கு they can push and get the things done. That is their that's how they are coming on board. So not only we get funds, we get strategic advice and operational support from the private equity firms if you are really using them properly. And mostly, they have that kind of an, they have very good, strong connections. So how this connection going to help us? Whenever we have or for example, I'll get back to the same hospital project. You have some procurement, say about 5 million you are going to buy for a year. அது வந்து how much you are going to get the materials. அது வந்து if you could able to minimize to 4 million with the same set of materials, that's really good. Your costing you're going to, because cost leadership can be done only by the PE firms. ஏன்னா இவங்க not only invested in your company, they invested in other companies as well. So அவங்க வந்து அந்த mass procurement பண்ணும்போது it's much easier, so that your cost goes down. Understanding private equity, it's a game actually. Unless until we don't understand their operating model, it's very tricky to engage them. Number one, what is their investment criteria? They have their set of investment criteria, like probably where they put money, and what kind of a sector, geography, and what is the holding period, and what is the expected returns. அவங்க என்ன return expect பண்றாங்க? What is the exit strategy? Like they want to, அவங்க வந்து that can be they can sell it to another private equity firm, the same shares, or they can push you to get into listing your company in stock market. There are a lot of strategies on that. ஸோ நம்மளோட கம்பெனி சைஸ், நம்மளோட ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜி எல்லாம் பார்த்து 5 to 7 years என்ன இது பண்ணுறோம் அப்படின்றத பொறுத்து then they can have a proper exit strategy. So we need to understand that very clearly. So the traveling will be much easy for us. So the time frame, holding period நான் சொன்னேன். So mostly it is like 5 to 7 years based on the situation. So private equity, venture capital only few differences. One of the main difference on the private equity, you engage on a bit of matured level, in the sense the company is making good money and stuff like. But venture capital come on the early stage. Mostly they are focusing on the tech companies, like the startup companies. Like you heard a lot about seed level, pre-seed, and series A, B, and stuff like. So it goes on that. So adula vandu venture capital participation is like quite common. Like say about 5 to 10 million and the mari size pathina, it's mostly a venture capital. Or 20 plus and 50 million அப்படின் போது, I'm talking about dollars. So this is all the stuff done by the private equity firms. So exit is very important. I'm already discussed பண்ணோம். So every investment comes in your company or in your board want to have a clear exit with a better multiples. Return on investments, obviously yes. There are two things. One is cash on cash, which is annual dividend. இதெல்லாம் very basics. Anyone can understand that. இது நான் சொல்கிறது ஒரு ட்ரிக்கி, ஃபைனான்ஷியல் அனலிஸ்ட்குள்ளே அது மட்டும் கிடையாது. ஆஸ் அ பிஸ்னஸ் ஓனர் யூ ஷுட் நோ அபவுட் இட். ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வி ஆல் நோஸ் அபவுட் ரிட்டர்ன் ஆன் இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் அப்படிங்கும்போது மோஸ்ட்லி இயர்லி என்ன டிவிடெண்ட் கொடுக்குறாங்க அப்படின்றது தான். நம்ம இஃப் ஐ இன்வெஸ்ட் இன் அ கம்பெனி, ஓகே இயர்லி எதுவும் கிடைக்குதா என்னன்றதை பார்ப்போம். ஸோ தட் இஸ் தி பிரைமரி திங். செகண்ட் இஸ் தி கேபிட்டல் கெயின். நம்ம ஷேர்ஸ் வந்து செல் பண்ணி இன்னொருத்தர் அதே கம்பெனியே வாங்கலாம், அல்லது இஃப் சம் அதர் நியூ இன்வெஸ்டர்ஸ் கமிங் ஆன் டேக்கிங் ஆர் ஷேர்ஸ். ஸோ வாட்ஸ் தி பெஸ்ட் the numbers we get அப்படின்றது நம்ம பார்க்குறோம். So these things are very important when we engage. We need to understand this very clearly before we are engaging a private equity firms. Prepare your firm. So this is like a bit tricky. Good. So நம்ம firm வந்து first we need to prepare before approaching any private equity firms. First வந்து why we need the fund. That's a very significantly important question. Why we need and how we are going to use and how much funds we need. நமக்கு வந்து 5 million வேணுமா, 50 million வேணுமா, 500 million வேணுமான்றது we need to have a clear roadmap. That's what we call always the equity story. This equity story is very important because நம்ம equity story வந்து clear-ஆ இருந்துச்சு அப்படின்னா it might be expanding your business into different geography. For example, Indian owners நிறைய பேர் இருக்கிறீங்க. You want to get into Middle East, coming to Dubai or Abu Dhabi or Saudi. So you have a clear understanding. You are going to expand your business, number one. So for expansion, you need funds. So again, like adala on the capital, working capital, so you just understand that a bit more detail. So how much funds we need அப்படின்றது main, that's the thing. So on the funding requirement, it should be very much connected with your equity story. இதுல so okay, so I'll get into details. So there are few things you need to understand about preparing your company before engaging any PE firms. Again, due diligence, I already mentioned that. So we need to prepare our company and stuff like so. So this is very important. இதை மட்டும் கொஞ்சம் நீங்கள் புரிஞ்சுக்கிட்டிங்கன்னா fundraising is an art you can do by yourself. Investment strategy of institutional investors. So this has to be aligned with your equity story. So உங்களோட equity story, like you have a school, college, or maybe your hospitals or some other large tech companies. So you're going for fundraising for $50 million. அப்போது அந்த உங்களுடைய ஸ்டோரி ஹேஸ் டு அலைன் வித் திஸ் திங். லைக் ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் டிக்கெட் சைஸ். அந்த இன்வெஸ்டர் நீங்கள் யாரை மீட் பண்ணுறீங்களோ அவங்களோட இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் வந்து இட்ஸ் டிக்கெட் சைஸஸ் அரௌண்ட் 50 to 100 million அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கணும். நாட் லெஸ் than that, or not like certain sovereign wealth fund, முபதலா, அபுதாபி இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் அத்தாரிட்டி, கத்தர் இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் அத்தாரிட்டி, அப்படி அவங்களோட பார்த்தீங்கன்னா they don't invest less than $500 million. அவங்கள்ட்ட போய் நம்ம ஒரு ப்ரொபோசல் கொடுத்தா இட்ஸ் a wrong connection. We don't get anything, it's just waste of time. So the ticket size is very important for us. Second is the sector and regional exposure. நீங்கள் வந்து ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் முபதலாம் ரீச் பண்ணுறோம், அவங்க they do invest in India or not, that we need to understand clearly on that particular sector and the particular time horizon and the particular investment size. So on the sector and the regional exposure is very much important. We try to understand about the institutional investors profile. ஹோல்டிங் பீரியட். நீங்கள் வந்து ஒரு 10 yearsக்கு ஒரு இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் வேணும்னு எதிர்பார்க்குறீங்க, பட் அவங்க வந்து we are looking for a very long term. For example, most of the sovereign wealth funds, like நான் சொன்ன அதே முபதலா and Abu Dhabi investment authorities, they invest on the credibility of the government. For example, they extensively invest. For example, I'm giving you an example, hypothetical example. They extensively invest in US. It means they have a very good connections with the US. And similar to India, like probably India also received some good funds. It means the credibility of the countries, or the connections and the synergies are very strong. So they want to. So adukku ஏத்த மாதிரி தான் we need to find the institutional investors. See, this doesn't apply. நம்ம போய் நம்மளோட ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ்டையோ ஃபேமிலிட்டையோ கேட்கும்போது you don't need to worry about these things. Maybe 1 to 5 million, 10 million is okay. அதுக்கு மேலே தாண்டி போகும்போது then obviously we need to understand this thing. So and we need to understand about that exit strategy, which includes the internal rate of return and the IRR, as well as the cash on cash. It means the dividends on a yearly basis. So it varies on different categories of investors. We mentioned about the sovereign wealth fund and private equity, private debt or finance, or pension funds. So now to manage them is very tricky, because when they come on board, then probably they literally sit on your head. It means we need to be very transparent. We need to go hand in hand. It leaks. They are your family members. Most of the time they spend weekends and stuff like with you, and we are like daily evenings, and that's how the way they manage, because they want to understand the founders and the board members who are already operating this business very clearly and want to handhold for a long run. இந்த இதுதான் நம்ம வந்து most of the time if we are very shy, we don't want to be attached with them, then it's very tricky. நம்ம வந்து அவங்கள மேனேஜ் பண்ணுறது கொஞ்சம் சங்கடமாக இருக்குது. They always be in a suspicious mode. எதுக்கு they are not close அப்படின்ற மாதிரி. And understand your investors' expectation. That's what I mentioned that, and probably understand, because they invested in multiple companies, so you need to use them very clearly. Like நீங்கள் வந்து you can literally ask any support so that you're able to. உங்களால் முடியல அப்படிங்கும்போது sure there is extra hand to help you on that. That's how, because they keep investing onto different portfolio companies. Transparent communication, yes. எதுவும் தவறாச்சு ஏதாவது, always we have some mess up in the business, so we should be very transparent and inform them so that sensitive items, we don't feel any gap between you guys. அது வந்து ரொம்ப முக்கியமானது. Take the long term view. So whatever you take a decision is all go for long term strategy and stuff like so. Negotiation. So obviously you raise funds, so you have all the power to negotiate as well. So be very clear, like what exactly you want from the investors. அதில் வந்து you have a ambiguity, you don't have any clarity அப்படிங்கும்போது they cannot help you as well. So we want to raise 50 million, be stubborn and justify with all the logic for this 50 million. Be prepared to compromise. So in case it doesn't happen, just it's okay, we need to just move forward. We don't need to irritate or maybe renegotiate. And the renegotiate isn't okay, but not cornering them, you should not do that. Understand the buyer's motivation. So everyone have their own set of expectations. So we should understand, why they are investing in my company. What is the intention behind it. So we should try to understand that. I think all this stuff very important. I think we are running out of time. I'll just try to finish to the next one. So the consequence, if you're in okay, you now engaged a private equity firm. So nothing more than that. They will take your shares in the company. So always they sit like a boss, and currently if you don't have that kind of a culture, most of the Indian family business is they are நம்ம அப்பா தாத்தா வழியிலேருந்து அப்பா வழியில் வந்து அப்புறம் பெரியப்பா சித்தப்பா அந்த மாதிரி மாமா. ஸோ அந்த இதுலேயே வந்தவங்களுக்கு இஸ் பிட் ட்ரிக்கி டு என்கேஜ் அ நியூ பர்சன் ஹூ இஸ் நோவர் கனெக்டட் டு அஸ் அண்ட் டசன்ட் அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் அவர் கல்ச்சர் அண்ட் அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் ஆர் நம்ம கொஞ்சம் லேட்டாக ஒர்க் பண்ணுற மாதிரி இருந்துச்சுன்னா தென் லிட்டரலி வி ஹேவ் அ ப்ராப்ளம், பிகாஸ் தே இன்சிஸ்ட் எவ்ரிதிங் டு பி டன் இமீடியட்லி. And sure, so the board, so they take extra hands on hiring, firing and setting up strategies and stuff like so. இதெல்லாம் பார்த்தீங்க அப்படின்னா overall it looks like probably it's a challenge to take the private equity, but it's really inevitable. அதாவது உங்களுடைய journey, your company is growing, we cannot miss them. So there are a lot of advisors and there are a lot of even like well matured people you can take as a non-executive directors to help them help you on this whole journey. So I'm really sorry for taking extra time for the and if any questions, I'll be happy to explore. And உங்கெல்லாம் இங்கே பார்த்ததுல ரொம்ப மகிழ்ச்சி. Thank you so much.